My name is Omar Rahman, and I am 32 years old. I was born in a dusty town on the western edge of Iran, not far from the border with Iraq. To grow up there meant to breathe Islam with every breath. It wasn't just a religion in my family. It was our law, our identity, and our reason for living. My father was a bus driver who spoke little, and my mother was a quiet, veiled woman who never raised her voice unless in prayer. We prayed 5 times a day. We fasted when told. We obeyed without question. In my earliest memories, the mosque was the center of everything. The imam's voice was law. As a boy, I sat cross-legged on cold floors, repeating verses from the Quran until my throat was dry. I wasn't allowed to question, only to obey. The West, I was told, was corrupt. Christians were enemies of Allah, and Muslims, true Muslims, were chosen to purify the world. I swallowed those words without resistance because there was no other voice around me. But even as I grew older, something gnawed at me inside. At first, it felt like loneliness, a hollow pit in my chest that nothing seemed to fill. I had no close friends, only acquaintances at school who kept their distance. Most of my days were spent in the corners of internet cafes, staring at screens, scrolling through forums, watching videos. I saw glimpses of people living free, talking about music, sports, art. But none of that belonged to me. At home, anything Western was sinful. So I kept to myself, trapped in silence. It was one evening in that dimly lit cafe that everything shifted. I clicked on a link that read, "True Islam, the Final Battle." I didn't know it then, but that click was the doorway into a new life, or maybe into death. The site was different. It was dark, quiet, but magnetic. It had videos, secret writings, chat rooms. Men with strong voices talked about jihad, about enemies of Allah, about martyrs who were rewarded in paradise. They showed images of children crying in rubble, mosques destroyed, old men bloodied by war. The site whispered a dangerous message. The world is against you, but Allah is with the warriors. That night, I didn't sleep. The words burrowed deep inside me. By the next day, I was back in the cafe, logging in again. I created a false username and joined a chat room called the Sword of Allah. There, people from Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt, and even Europe spoke in hushed, urgent tones. One of them messaged me directly. "Are you ready to serve Allah with your life?" My hands trembled. I didn't know what to say. Finally, I typed, "I want to know more." That was the beginning. From that moment, I wasn't a bystander anymore. I was a student. The man who spoke to me most often called himself Abu Farid. I never knew his real name, but I trusted him like a brother. He fed me a steady diet of radical sermons, articles, and videos. He told me the West was a cancer, Christians were the enemies of God, and jihad was not just a personal struggle, but the highest calling of a Muslim. He painted it as glorious, sacred, unstoppable. At first, I resisted. His words frightened me, but fear soon turned into belief. He told me of martyrs who entered paradise immediately after death, walking in gardens of peace, served by 72 virgins. He said their blood was a sweet offering to Allah. The more I listened, the more it filled the hollow emptiness inside me. My life, once gray and forgotten, now seemed destined for something grand. I was no longer Omar, the boy nobody noticed. I was a chosen one, a soldier of Allah. I deleted my social media. I erased Western music from my phone. My eyes grew cold, my voice hard. Death no longer frightened me. It became a doorway to glory. Abu Farid told me I was ready for the next step, and I believed him. With a small bag of belongings, some cash, my passport, prayer beads, and a flash drive of lectures, I left home. I lied to my mother, saying I was going to a religious school. She hugged me, prayed for my safety, and I walked away without looking back. Inside, I told myself I wasn't abandoning her. I was honoring her by choosing the life of a warrior. I crossed the border into Iraq under cover of night, Men were waiting for me. They gave no names, only directions. We were taken to a training camp hidden in the mountains. I was no longer in the world I knew. I was among strangers who looked at me with suspicion, but also with recognition. We were all the same, broken men searching for purpose, now molded into weapons. The training was merciless. They drilled us in weapons, explosives, ambush tactics. But more than the weapons, it was the words that shaped us. Radical imams visited daily, twisting verses of the Quran into commands for violence. They didn't speak of peace or mercy. They spoke of war, blood, and paradise. They told us Christians were unclean, cursed enemies of Allah. They promised us that every bullet was a gift to heaven, every explosion a call to paradise. At night, we sang jihad songs, voices echoing into the darkness. Slowly, I stopped thinking for myself. I surrendered to their rhythm, to their lies, to their fire. And I believed I had found my destiny. The day came when my training ended, and my mission began. I was told I would enter Syria with a small group of brothers. Our target was a church in Sweden where Christians were hiding. Inside you will find men, women, and children, the leader said. Let them meet the God they pray to. His laughter chilled me, but I forced myself to nod. I had been taught they were not human, only enemies of Allah. We disguised ourselves as villagers and traveled in a convoy. I carried nothing but my prayer beads and the bomb strapped beneath my robe. My mind repeated the promises: martyrdom, paradise, 72 virgins. I whispered, "O Allah, accept this sacrifice." But before we reached the city, chaos struck. Out of nowhere, gunfire erupted. A military truck rammed our convoy. In an instant, fire swallowed everything. Our vehicle exploded, throwing me into the air. My ears rang. My skin burned, and then darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the wreckage. My soul floated above, weightless, drawn by a blinding light. I thought, this is paradise. But there were no virgins, no gardens, no songs of glory, only silence. And then a man stood before me. His face was unlike anything I had seen, filled with sorrow, yet radiating strength. His hands bore scars, ancient wounds that glowed with light. I knew who he was, even though I had never believed. It was Jesus. I fell to my knees, trembling, unable to speak. Every lie I had believed rushed through my mind. The imams, the promises, the hatred. I expected him to strike me down. Instead, he looked at me with mercy. There are no virgins, Omar. His voice thundered inside my soul. There is only truth, and I am the truth. He showed me visions, myself walking into the church with a bomb, Christians praying unaware of the death I carried. Then he showed me hell, a pit of endless fire, where screams never ceased. I saw men I had trained with, my recruiters, even loved ones who had rejected him. They cried out, "They lied to us. Don't follow them." The torment was not just burning, it was knowing the truth too late. I wept, begging for escape. Jesus reached out his scarred hand and lifted me. "I spared you," he said. "Now live for me." My eyes opened back in the wreckage. Smoke filled my lungs. My body was broken, bleeding, but I was alive. Aid workers found me, and a Christian man named Elias risked everything to smuggle me out. Through Jordan and into Israel, I was hidden and protected. Now I live as a fugitive. I have no home, no nation, but I am a citizen of heaven. I carry the weight of my past, the faces of those in hell, the memory of the fire, but I also carry the love I saw in his eyes. I am Omar Rahman, once a jihadist. Now, I belong to Jesus.